Hi, everyone, and welcome to Workout Wednesday, my weekly podcast of everything health, wellness, fitness, and lifestyle. I am your host, Jeanette Ortega, creator of Butoga Lifestyle, which is fitness of mind, body, and spirit. So please check it out at butoga.com, BOOTOGA.com. And come join the tribe and let's get nice and healthy together. And one of the great things of doing this too is now having this awesome podcast and bringing these amazing guests to you. And so not only is this have become my dear friend now, Amy, Dr. Amy, but she is also a badass woman. My goodness, she has done so much. And let me introduce Dr. Amy. I have to call you doctor because you earned that. Thank you for joining us, Amy.
Thanks, Jeanette. I'm very excited to be here and to share with your audience and just, spend some time and have a great conversation with you.
Yes, I'm excited about it too. So let me introduce you so our audience knows who we're talking to.
Sure.
This is Dr. Amy Novotny. She founded the Paber Institute. I believe I said that correct. The mission Paber Institute, with the mission to provide pain, stress, and anxiety relief to those who seek a naturalistic form of treatment when other treatment methods have fallen short. She has been doing this for over 12 years. Her background is in orthopedics, sports, balance disorders, nerve injuries. She is also a best-selling author in Don't Quit, Stories of Persistence, Courage, and Faith, and The Success Habits of Superachievers. Nice. And this is what I love too. This woman not only has created her own breathing technique to help people not go into surgery and find relief in their bodies, but she is a 40+ marathon runner, running 10 ultra marathons, which include 200 milers, an Ironman triathlon. Good Lord, lady. Welcome. You've done it all, and an amazing photographer. I know you do wildlife photography, which is this gorgeous picture right behind you. But please just tell us a little bit about your method and who you are so our listeners can get even more of your goodness.
Sure. Absolutely. Thanks for that nice introduction. And basically, ever since I was little, I was fascinated with life, whether it was humans, nature, the environment, just fascinated with the process of how things work in our bodies and out in the world. And, growing up, I studied hard and I wanted to learn as much as possible. I knew that the more I could learn, the more I could help someone. And I was just oriented that way. And so I got my doctorate in physical therapy and went that route for a while, did sports and orthopedics and, touched on, different types of pain, chronic pain and that. And I realized as I started getting into marathon running, and as I was getting up there into, 5-6 marathons and getting them under my belt, I wanted to just run the Boston Marathon. And I remember when I was a little kid seeing the race on TV and thinking, oh my gosh, those are world-class athletes. There is no way I would ever, be that skilled athletically to do anything like that. And once I did my first marathon, I realized I was only 10 minutes short of qualifying. So I was like, okay, well, I can push harder. I can strengthen more, run faster. I can do all these things. But with that comes a price. You have a job, if you have family, you have other obligations. I was also volunteering. So it wasn't so easy to just devote all my, time outside of work into marathon training. And so after a while, I started also wanting to explore more about the body. And so I realized you could get people better with physical therapy, but there's still a population where you couldn't really get them 100%, or you couldn't really get them past that 50% improvement mark. And it was the chronic pain population. So I started looking into asymmetries in our body through the Postural Restoration Institute and asymmetries in your diaphragm and how that plays a role in our body and how we position ourselves, how we have pain, all of that. And so at the time I was trying to qualify for Boston. I'm on a treadmill, running 8 miles 3 times a week, trying to get faster. And I started playing with my breathing. I took some of the knowledge of these asymmetries in our trunk and our diaphragm. And I was like, okay, what if I start playing with my breathing? What's going to happen? So I did that at first. And then I realized it was more than just my breathing that I was playing with. I started playing with my rib cage position. And as soon as I changed my rib cage position, my breathing followed suit, and I could feel myself calm down on the treadmill. Now all of a sudden I was like the coyote and the roadrunner. And the roadrunner, its body is still and its legs are just moving. I felt like that on the treadmill. I'm like, okay, so is everyone run this way? And I'm just, late to the game, and like, what happened to all the tightness? Like, it just all went away. And I didn't have to stretch. I stopped scraping, the rolling. I stopped doing all those things because I didn't need to. So it's like, okay, I got to start to teach this to people. I got to see if I can apply this. And that's how I got started into developing this method. And it's really branched out to more than just pain, more than just flexibility. Now it helps people with stress and anxiety, helps people get out of, like as you mentioned, major surgeries, joint replacements, or rotator cuff repairs, or disc herniations, all these surgeries, because so many are related to stress and the stressors in our life that cause a physical change in the way our muscles work and the way our body is held. And that has led to me being able to travel around the world. It led to me going to Antarctica, helping me, led to me speaking in different masterminds around the country. And it's opened so many doors. And it all came from me just playing around on the treadmill, being exposed to the right coursework, the right people, and just being able to synthesize this into a method that I can use to help other people.
Yeah, that is amazing. And I am a direct person that has gone through your technique, and it definitely is a complete new way of breathing, a new way of taking us, breaking some old habits and patterns and learning a new way of breathing. And I know that you've helped so many athletes and fitness people. And I know you even told me, like, I'm very difficult to change the way I'm doing it because we're so used to it. So how do you teach that with people when we're so used to breathing a certain way, thinking that this is the way we're supposed to breathe? Because even in yoga, I do these big inhales, right? And you see all the yogis and their big expression of, their body and all of that. And then when you taught your breathing to me, I was like, whoa, that's so the opposite. So how do you go about really bringing us to learning it and changing our old habits?
Yeah, I have to do it slowly. So one of the things that I didn't do at first, but I do now, is I meet people where they're at and I let them know what you are doing is one strategy for your body to achieve a goal. So if you're taking these deep breaths in for yoga to try to get more air in, you're using that to possibly uplift you, to wake you up, or, and hopefully make you more flexible. So we start there and say, okay, we're going to just say that is one skill. Just like maybe how to run, skip, and jump, 3 different skills. Just because you know how to skip doesn't mean you can't learn how to run or jump. We're going to do that with the same thing with your breathing. You know how to breathe this one way that you've been practicing for a long time, but now let's introduce a new way of breathing that has a purpose of teaching you how to calm yourself down. So you can use it after yoga, after some kind of heavy workout. You can use it at the end of a stressful day. And so as we do it, and depending on each person, everyone's body is different, I'm going to watch you and see all the different ways that your body is stuck and say, okay, we're going to break it down bit by bit. So a lot of times I have you use your own hands to put on your body so that you can use that tactile sensation to help you feel something move or change differently. And we have to break it down into easy pieces. So sometimes a person is very comfortable sitting. So I can use the breathing in the sitting position to go through that. And I'll put them, with their knees higher than their hips, their low back relaxed, the belly comes out. So I'm setting up their body so that way, as they change their breathing, it's easier. Sometimes I put people on their back because they're so used to sucking up or in, or their back is so turned on that they can't curl and relax in a chair, that I have to put them flat on their back, but their knees bent so that their back flattens out. Sometimes I put people on their sides, on their hands or knees. Sometimes I have them bent over a table. So there's different positions that I use to try to help a person ease into this breathing style that helps their nervous system calm down. And I have to be very, very careful. And I'm, watching closely when I work with someone to see, okay, how is their body responding? I communicate with them. What are you feeling? And I try to make them open-ended questions so that they can say, this feels good, this feels bad, this feels uncomfortable, this feels fabulous. And all of that is good feedback for me so I know how to progress.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, because breathing is so, important. And as I do meditations, it helps to calm us down, our mind, our sympathetic nervous system, all of that. So it's so important. And then with the way that we move our body. So if you could talk about the rib cage and the diaphragm a little bit, just so we can understand that. How do we shift that for our breathing?
Yeah. So if we think about the two kind of opposing, we think of like opposing systems, your parasympathetic, which is rest, digest, relaxation. I always kind of say it's your low level. Then your high level is that sympathetic fight or flight mode. Now your sympathetic nervous system lies along your spine in your back. If you think about it, when you stick out your chest, pull your shoulders back, the muscles along your spine start to contract. When they do that, they crunch on that fight or flight nervous system, and you can feel tension increase in your body because you're getting prepared to fight, flee, or freeze. That's how we get ourselves ready for it. If you're getting ready to fight someone, you don't see yourself curl in a ball. You get your chest out and you're like, hey, hear me roar, pound on that chest. Right. Or, if you're look at any sprinters at the end of a race, they don't sit there and drop their chest in and let their belly come out. They're let's stick that chest out.
Yeah.
Because they innately, without realizing it, they're putting their body in a position of fight or flight status. So it's very powerful when we realize that our body position determines our fight or flight status or our relaxation status. Now, it's not the end all, but it is one piece of that puzzle. And as soon as you stick your chest out, pull your shoulders back, now the front of your rib cage lifts up. Yeah. As soon as that rib cage lifts up, the backside goes down. So that increases the pressure of using the muscles in your low back. So your low back now becomes a hinge and the muscles in your back contract. So it further puts you in fight or flight status. Now, when you do that and your rib cage in front lifts up, now you're changing the orientation of your diaphragm. Now your diaphragm is going to be lifted up. So when you breathe in, it can't compress down as well to get a good deep breath in using the diaphragm. The problem with that is then when you want to get a deep breath in, if you're in this chest out, shoulders back state, you have to lift up using your shoulders, your head, you lift up your ribs, you arch your back more, all of these things, these accessory muscles you use to create negative pressure for air to go into your lungs instead of using the diaphragm. So if we want to truly use a diaphragm, guess what? Those ribs in front need to go down. And you use your side abs, not the rectus, not the six-pack muscle. You want to use that side abs to help the ribs drop down so that your diaphragm can then create a taller dome. And as it creates that taller dome, then when you inhale, you can get a good breath in that fills all of your lungs. And it stimulates that vagus nerve, which calms you out of fight or flight mode into parasympathetic relaxation. Right. So your rib cage position does two very vital things. Well, many, but for this purpose, one is rib cage position can either pinch on that fight or flight nervous system, or it can also cause your breathing to not use your diaphragm, which keeps you in fight or flight status. So you can also reverse that. You can change your rib cage position so it's not pinching on that fight or flight nervous system. You can also change your rib cage position so your breathing accesses your diaphragm to calm yourself down through that vagus nerve stimulation. So that's why this is so important with this type of breathing. If you want to calm yourself down, we want to shift into this, and it's not just the breathing alone, it's the breathing plus the body position, the rib cage position. That's where the beauty and the magic comes in.
Got it. Yeah, that's amazing. So can you show us a little bit? I mean, we're going to have listeners as well. So we're going to have some people being able to watch, some people just listening. So if you can walk us through that, that'd be fantastic.
Absolutely.
I love it. Already.
So we're going to do this sitting. So I'm standing just because I'm presenting and I can move around easier. But I'm going to talk you through sitting. So for all of you who are sitting, sit all the way back in your chair back. Let your low back relax. Let your tailbone tuck under you. For those of you who are used to using sitting as an exercise, it's going to feel very awkward. But we want to let that tailbone tuck under, low back relax. We're going to sit all the way back in the chair. Now we want your feet flat on the ground. If you look at your knees, they need to be at the height of your hips or slightly higher. We don't want your knees lower than your hips because that's going to turn your back on, put you in fight or flight status. So we want to do the exact opposite. If you don't, you can even lower your chair. You can put books under your feet. We want to get as close to this position as possible. Then we're going to put one hand on the chest, one hand on the belly. If you have a straw, you can grab one. I use straws all the time and I cut them in half just because it's easier on the lip muscles. But you can use one and put it in between your lips if you have one. If not, you're just going to make an O with your mouth when you blow out as if you have a straw there. Because we want a cylinder of air to come out of our mouth, just as if you have that cylinder of air going out of a straw. And we want that cylinder because we want our rib cage to drop back down into a cylinder away from that hinged position. And as we go through this, we're going to start with 4 steps, and it's going to get more complicated. But the first steps is breathing in through the nose, pausing a second, blow out through the mouth or straw, and then pause and hold your breath for 3 seconds. We may speed up that pause because as you're learning this, it's hard to hold for the 3 seconds if you're in fight or flight status. So one way you can tell, if you can't hold your breath very long, you know you're in fight or flight status and your breathing reflects that. So that's just kind of a little cue that you can use for determining where you are in this whole spectrum. Okay. So we're just going to go through, I'm going to just coach you guys through it. And as we get into a rhythm, I'm going to start to add more things. Feel this, do this, and I'm going to start to add more, but we're going to start easy and just work our way into it. If you want, you can close your eyes. You can keep them open. I usually recommend people close their eyes, get rid of any distractions out there. Okay, and here we go. So we're going to do a gentle breath in your nose. Pause and blow out through your mouth. Hear the air coming out of your mouth. Hold, hold, and breathe in. Gently breathe in your nose, passively. Pause and blow out. Feel your air coming out of your mouth. Hear the whoosh. Hold, hold, and breathe in. Gently breathe in your nose without effort. Pause and blow out. Feel the air coming out of your mouth as your chest begins to drop in. Hold and breathe in. Gently breathe in your nose, directing the air to your throat. Pause and blow out. Feel your chest melt under your hand. Feel your belly spill out into your other hand. Hold and breathe in. Gently breathe in your nose to your throat, passively. Pause and blow out. Feel your chest melt in. Feel your collarbones drop away from your chin. Belly comes out. Hold and breathe in. Gently breathe in your nose to your throat. Pause and blow out. Feel your chest melt in. Feel your armpits relax. Your ribs drop down. Hold and breathe in. Gently breathe in your nose to your throat without effort. Pause and blow out. Feel your chest melt in. Armpits relax as your ribs drop down, belly comes out. Hold and breathe in. Gently breathe in. Keep the ribs relaxed as you breathe in. Feel the air go into your throat. Pause and blow out. Feel your breastbone melt away from your hand. Feel it sink away from your shirt as your ribs drop down. Hold and breathe in. Gently breathe in your nose to your throat without effort. Pause and blow out. Feel your chest melt in. Your low back relax. The wave goes down your body. Hold and take a break. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of the beginnings of how to shift your breathing when sitting. And then you start to learn how to integrate it into reaching, squatting, running, Pilates, like all these different things. And you can use it to get yourself out of that fight or flight status that protects a joint, that leads to pain and leads to indications of surgery. You can work your way out of it.
That's so amazing. And I know for myself, like I want to take these deep breaths. So I have to catch myself breathing in to do it nice and slow. So how often should we practice this? How long of a period to start to really, for it to sink in?
So I tell people, do it for about 5 minutes at a time, give or take. So sometimes people really jump into it and can feel. Sometimes it might take 10 minutes, depend at the end of the day. And I'll say, when you first wake up, you want to do 5 minutes because you toss and turn throughout the night. You don't know what position you're in. You wake up with a kink or something. But if you can start your day for about 5 minutes, then after your morning craziness, before lunch, do 5 minutes. Again, after afternoon craziness, before dinner, 5 minutes. And then before you go to bed. If you can hit those 4 times, you can start to shift your nervous system. And there will be times where people practice when they're sitting at a stoplight and there's nothing going on in their car. By all means, if nothing's going on, you're in a safe place, you're not distracted, you're kind of still paying attention. You can do that safely. And it's just a few minutes to break up your nervous system. Because if you think about it, our body gets ramped up. And we often don't realize that. And so we want to really reel it back in and say, you know what? Okay, I felt that tension come on. Let me release it.
I have to give you some good credit here because it was just this past weekend. I went to a studio that does hot and cold therapy. So it's the ice dunking and then the heat and the ice dunking and the heat. And I've done it before, but it's been a few years since I've gotten into that 38 degrees water. And the one that I went into also had jets. So it felt like wind also. So it was very cold.
Yes.
And everyone's probably like, why do you do that? It's actually really good for the body, for any injuries, overall health. It's been around for years. But when I got in that water, and the lady was great there as well too. She's like, just go right in. Don't try to make your way in slowly. Go right in and let's start to practice your breath. Well, right away, I was like, oh my gosh, your body, your head, everything starts. I was in, fight or flight for sure. And I started doing the breath and really focusing, especially on my way out, my breath out. I was doing long breaths and I was even holding on to my belly to like feel my belly come out. And I literally just completely started to feel my body relax.
Aww.
And, then I was like really focused on it. And I stayed under for 2 minutes. So that was a huge thing for me. So it definitely works. It takes some time, but it completely relaxes your entire body.
Yeah.
And
and that's powerful. Yeah. Good job. I mean, I saw your post on Facebook about it. I was wondering, I'm like, wow, you were very in the moment on your picture and I was really impressed.
Thank you. But I was like, I have to tell Amy. So I was like, I'm going to tell her when I'm on the podcast.
That's awesome. I am very impressed.
Thank you. But, it's amazing. It's like we really have to still the mind. It's so much mindset and to be able to focus on that breath and really be with that and the intention why we're doing it. But also when we went hiking, so we went hiking in Sedona. This is my dear friend who I went hiking with, at all these gorgeous photos that we posted. and I must have stepped on a rock wrong or something. And so my knee was even just bugging me at the end of the hike. And I told Amy, I'm like, I think I stepped on a rock incorrectly, or just, quickly.
Yeah.
And she gave me just some quick tips. So like even explain something like when we get a little tweak, maybe in our knee or our lower back, like how can we start to practice this and start to calm down the body? Or even told me to turn on, my hamstrings and my glutes, press through my heel. So what are some tips that you can maybe give us?
Yeah. So when you first, let's say you get an injury or pain shows up, first thing I say is, okay, we need to calm down the fight or flight nervous system, because that kicks in on top of other muscles contracting. If you think about it, if you're holding a pail of water and you're using your biceps, now all of a sudden a gunshot goes off, you're going to tense up and jump all over. That's sympathetic tone. That's muscle tension that goes throughout your body where the muscles contract on top of your muscles voluntarily acting. So when you had that pain develop, your muscles were under your control, but now there's this other stressor that starts to add on top of your muscles and starts to guard, and it pulls your body out of position. Or there at some point, your body got pulled out of position during the hike, you stepped or what happened. So the first thing is if something shows up, I say, basically just start breathing to drop your rib cage, calm yourself down. And you can continue an activity and see if you can release the tension in your body, just generally speaking. And a lot of times that will work. Now, let's say it doesn't work after a couple minutes. You should be able to do this within a couple minutes if you know how to do this breathing process. And if you're still feeling something, that tells me, okay, highly likely there is a muscle that's too turned on and another one that's not turned on that you can't sense or feel. So with you, you're having some pain on the outside of your knee, on front outside of your knee. So that tells me, okay, one, I need to get her pelvis in neutral. I need to get, you need to be in neutral. So I want you to activate your hamstrings. So that's step 2. After we calmed your whole body, then we get your hamstrings, get your pelvis back in neutral. If that still doesn't get rid of everything, then we need to get your inner thigh to kick in to balance out the pressure that's on your outer thigh. And so we're doing that as you're doing the breathing. And the key is as you exhale, that's when you want to activate the muscles that you haven't been sensing and feeling to help pull you back into neutral. So the breathing helps calm you, but it also helps activate you to pull your body back into a position so tissues are not butting up against each other. And that's what we did with you. And you can do that throughout your body. It's how I've been in a 50-mile trail race and fella tripped over a tree branch at mile 40. I got up, I'm bleeding all over, my knees nice and swollen. I'm like, okay, I have 10 miles left to go. And I wasn't going to not finish. That was not an option. So I did exactly the steps I just told you. Stood still for a second, blew out, calmed myself down. Then I started breathing, doing the special breathing and walking. And I just did that for a few minutes. Things calmed down further. Then I started jogging and breathing. And by 5 minutes later, I wasn't in pain. The pain had just all gone away. Of course, there's adrenaline and stuff too, but even the swelling pain. And by the time I got done with that last 10 miles, I was pain-free and sprinting to the finish line. And I didn't have the pain that would normally come with an injury like that because I took immediate action to calm down that overprotective response that happens with an injury or pain.
Wow, that's amazing. And everything that you told me started to work. I really had to focus on it, but it started to work. And I was like, wow, this is great. It was still a little sore, but by the next day, I kept focusing on that and it was fine. I'm like, this is fantastic. So now I can totally see how you save so many people from going into surgeries if you really just start to do that, because we're so tense everywhere. So it starts to help relax. I would probably assume the surrounding muscles, correct?
That's exactly, you hit it right on the head. It's a lot of time, if you think about any area where you have pain, our body's natural reaction is to splint it, to contract all the muscles to protect it so it doesn't move. Now, in an emergency situation, that's a great thing, but that reaction lasts too long. And sometimes it's overdone by our bodies without our awareness because we live in a flight or fight state in general. So if we were in a relaxed state in general and something would happen to us, we wouldn't have such an overreactive response. But unfortunately, we don't live in that type of society. So we have to learn how to calm ourselves down. The muscles release. That's how you can get someone out of a joint replacement surgery. They're bone on bone and they've been doing injections and pills for decades. And then you say, okay, well, we can do this without surgery. They're going to look like you have 10 heads. But as soon as they start to like, yeah, okay, it's bone on bone. What are you talking about? But the reason that they're bone on bone or things are touching is because the muscle's holding them that way. So if you change the way the muscles hold you, you can change the space, tissue stop pinching, voila, you don't need the surgery. I mean, because that's really what surgery does. It cuts you open and creates space. So why not shift the way the muscles work? Because even if you have that surgery that creates space, your muscles are still going to be feeding. And often when people have other surgeries, like then a hip afterwards, or if they have a back surgery, it's going to be another back surgery because the muscles haven't changed their wiring. And that's the true key for transforming your body.
I love that. Your muscles have not changed the wiring. That's like perfect. That's a tweet. That needs to go on
like what does that mean?
That was an aha moment. That was so good. Wow, you are fantastic, and what you've come up with it just blows me away all the time. That I'm like, wow, everybody needs this information. So what you're doing is so fantastic. So thank you for what you're doing. It's beautiful. Yeah. And well, I'm gonna tell. Yeah, no, thank you. I'm going to have you give us the information of how to contact you after I ask you some lovely life lesson questions. I love to do this with all of my guests because you are all so brilliant and would love to hear some of your life lesson wisdom. We all have gone through our life lessons. We have all gone through the ups and downs of life. And so these are some fill in the blanks for you, Amy. Are you ready?
Okay, I am ready.
Okay, your first one. Fill in the blank. I'm living my best life when?
When I'm helping someone get out of pain and I'm out in nature.
One of my biggest aha moments was?
When I was on a treadmill and I changed the way I breathed and got myself out of pain within seconds. That freaked me out. Like, what just happened?
Like, what did I just
that's
do?
That's not supposed to happen. Exactly. How do I do it again?
Exactly. What did I just do? How do I do it? How do I keep doing this?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
What I know for sure is
that our breathing determines so much more about our health than most people realize.
Damn.
It's what we start with, what we end with, but there's a lot more than just air in, air out.
Beautiful. Inhale and exhale must mean so many different things for you.
Yes.
So, what was your biggest takeaway from 2020?
That life is going to continue to throw us curveballs, that we can't predict what's going to happen next. And so one of our best skills is learning how to pivot. And we all have different timelines for that. Not one way is right. Obviously, some people pivot faster and they can reap the benefits of it. But just if we continue to work on ourselves and keep a growth mindset, we can overcome a lot of these obstacles that's just thrown right at us.
Yes, beautiful. Love it. What is your focus word for 2021?
For me, it's actually growth. So many aspects of my life, I'm working on growth and making changes. So that's my big one for this year.
I love that. We're all growing.
Mm-hmm.
And what is your morning routine? What's one tip you can give us for your morning routine?
So as soon as I wake up, you go to the bathroom or whatever, I actually sit in bed with my back up against the wall and bring my knees to my chest. and I sit there and I practice the breathing, it neutralizes a lot of what happens in our body, helps with your bowels, helps with calming yourself down. You can use that time to journal. You can use that time to reflect, to read, to think. But I always start with that because then it gets me ready to go for a run, go for a hike. That always comes next. And then I start my day. But those two things are my top things that I do. And I can integrate reading, meditation, and stuff in that. But those two are my go-to and I recommend them for everyone.
Perfect. So you just sit up and bring your knees into your chest and do your breathing.
Yeah. And make sure when you're sitting up that your back is up against something. And so if your back is up against something, your tailbone's curled under, you might need a small pillow or a towel just to take up the space behind your butt and the backboard or the wall. And you sit there and your knees are up close to your chest together, and it neutralizes everything.
Oh, I love that. Try that.
Yeah.
Add that to my morning routine.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. You have just dropped so much gold. And, we always say, focus on your breath. Your breath is everything. And you bring meaning, a whole new meaning to that. And you helping so many people with everything, a better life. And I'm still trying to practice that breathing. And I can tell that I'm like, okay, I need to take a break. Because then I'm like, okay, I'm trying too hard. So let me take a break and then I'll come back to it. So thank you for all that you do. And how can we find you? Where can we find you? How can we contact you?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm on social media all over the place, but I love to connect with people. So I say, please send me an email. Let me know how I can help you. If you need a free resource or if you need a free 15-minute consultation, I like to connect with people and see how I can meet their needs. And so email me and tell me they heard me on your podcast, so I know what I've talked about. And my email address is Amy, AMY, at paberinstitute.com, PABR-institute.com. So
beautiful. Get a hold of her.
Thank you so much, Jeanette.
No, thank you, Amy. And people, please contact this woman especially if you have some injuries and thinking of surgery, this woman can help you. So thank you again. I appreciate your time and thank you for sharing all of this wisdom. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening, and have a beautiful workout Wednesday. Bye-bye.